Hey everybody, welcome back to The Quest for the Bestest. It's the podcast from Backlot Banter where us four Backlot boys review every single Palme d'Or winner. And today we continue on with our very first, an examination of the very first Cannes Film Festival and the many winners that were handed out in... Is this first? Or this is the second?
No, this is the second. Yeah.
Well, there were so many from the first year, but now I guess we get to go on to the second, so that's good. Thank God, finally. The film, before we go too off the rails here, is Antoine and Antoinette, directed by Jacques Becker from 1947, sticking around right after the war ended. But we have got to tell you what we talked about last time for fear that you didn't watch the episode. But you should, because this film was something out of left field.
I'm terrified.
Yeah, I'm terrified too. Something out of left field that we didn't actually really, I don't know. We don't get to talk about a film with no plot very often. It was Ziegfeld Follies, and it got a 4.0 on the list, which puts it at the bottom, spot number 8. So, not very good. But the episode was quite entertaining. So, there's always that. Now, Abram, I do believe you have a featured comment from some video that we put out in the last, little while.
I do have a featured comment. It's frankly a little bit of promotion, and let's take a walk together, okay?
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to read a comment from our video called We Ranked Every Best Picture Winner.
Yes.
Wow.
The longest video we've ever made.
Yeah.
6.5 hours?
6.5 hours long. You can go check this out on our channel. Where
That
we
was a
ranked
marathon session to record that thing.
Yes. I'm not there. Another young blonde gentleman took my place, Sam Meltzer, the fantastic Sam Meltzer. And the comment I want to read from this video is from John Tor 11, our treasured son,
Absolutely.
who says, "So I've been sitting on a train for 7 hours going up to Norland. Listening to this is a perfect during
Is that near
time.
Nomadland?
Possibly.
Okay, just check.
Great
I'm
discussion,
not good at
guys.
geography.
I would put Hamlet in harmful as it pushed back filmmaking 400 years.
Yes, it did. Yes, it did.
They didn't even have films 400 years ago.
The reason
That's how bad it is.
The reason I want to read John Tor's comment is because we're going to, and I don't know if we actually said this publicly yet, but we are very soon going back to the realm of Oscars.
Yes.
Because we're going to be taking a break from Palme d'Or to do all 10 of the Oscar Best Picture nominees.
Yes.
So just
As
to get
we've
you ready.
Done in years
This
past.
will be our 4th year.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think we should, I think we've evolved as reviewers to the point where we can continue the Palme d'Ors while we do that. Just upload 3 reviews a week.
Three reviews a week.
Oh, God.
No. But yeah, we'll be doing
and work 40 hours at the job.
10 nominees. 6 weeks. 4th year doing it. I think we got it in the bag, gentlemen.
Oh, yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I don't want to put us on the spot, but I'm going to.
Okay.
We can edit if we need to.
Oh, yeah.
Will this episode be the last episode before we start?
Nothing to go on.
No, we
Those-
got one more.
One more
Okay.
episode in the middle?
Mhm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So get ready. One more Palme d'Or and then 10 American movies.
Yes.
Well,
One of
probably like
9.
8 or 9.
Yeah.
8 or 9 American
That's
movies.
part of the fun.
Right. I was speaking in the sad reality wherein Anatomy of a Fall doesn't make it. I was trying to temper
Yes,
my
that's right.
expectations,
That's
but
right.
it should, and hopefully it does. So we would do another full Quest episode on it. That would be a
Wow.
interesting scenario.
3 of
Yeah.
them.
Imagine if it wins.
3 episodes.
Well, stay tuned right here on Backlot Banter for all of that fun movie goodness, which is coming your way in a couple weeks. But now, let's talk about Antoine and Antoinette, a little French film, some lighthearted fare, I would say. Who would like to give a plot synopsis? Recap what happened in Tuckerwood. He's raising his hand.
Tucker Hazel
Hand up.
here. Yeah, Tucker Hazel, Backlog Banter. I just watched this movie because I had a hell of a day. My car got frozen. The door wouldn't close. The car got so frozen. I was hammering on the reverse and it wouldn't go anywhere, which is a crazy feeling, by the way. So it took me forever to get back home so I could actually watch this movie. And then I did. When I did, yeah, it's okay. This is an okay movie.
What's the plot, Bobby? What's the
Oh,
plot?
oh.
You did a day summary.
Woo. I thought you meant a summary of my life.
No.
No. I want to hear about the
Antoine
film in a...
and Antoinette
Yes.
is a film about a young French couple who are living their lives and they're kind of barely getting by in terms of money. But it turns out they have a winning lottery ticket. And then the winning lottery ticket is kind of gone askew for a little bit. And then they find it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's not wrong.
That's about a 2-sentence summary, but that's about all that happens in this movie. There are some side characters and
Yes.
maybe the ideas of some subplots,
Mhm.
but they aren't particularly explored. And I think this is an okay movie, but I do think that it does things that two other French movies do, but it does them worse. The first one is Rene Clair's Le Million, which is also about someone winning the lottery, and then they're doing parties and
Let me
people
go.
wanting their money and all of that stuff.
Let me go pull up Letterboxd right now here a second.
And also Robert Bresson's L'Argent, which is about money and money being passed around, which this movie has a small element of in terms of where is this lottery ticket, who has it at this time. But both of those movies I think are excellent, and frankly from more respected filmmakers. So I feel like this is kind of just a amalgamation of those two ideas, but doesn't have the filmmaking substance or thematic substance to, frankly, give me a particular reason of why this film in particular deserved to win the highest artistic
Share
prize.
the highest artistic
Share.
prize. As we discussed briefly at the end of the previous episode, because this is from the 1947 same second Cannes Film Festival. This one won the best psychological and love film sort of title of the award.
Okay, I guess maybe there's just not a lot of psychological and love films in competition that year.
I don't know. But to pass the torch over to myself.
Yeah, you can take the torch.
To
now.
take the torch, to steal the torch.
to wrench the torch from Tucker's hands. I thought it was fine. Yeah, I thought it was fun. It's pretty fun, I think. It's not an especially deep film like many of the films that we have talked about or will talk about
We've gotten
in the
lost
series.
in some trenches.
That's true.
Taste of Cherry, Uncle Boo and Me.
Yeah,
Jesus
yeah.
Christ.
But by and large, it's pretty fun. I think it takes a little bit to get going into its own sort of antics, and that time is spent getting to know our characters, who aren't especially deep or profound in that regard. So maybe it doesn't necessitate, 45 minutes of the movie of your 90-minute film to do that. But once we get it into like the shell game of the lottery ticket being passed around, I find it pretty fun. There's some there's some zany side characters like their neighbor's a boxer and their friend that works at the train station, and they serve for some pretty fun and entertaining sequences with some fast-paced dialogue and people being very haggard and anxious about where the lottery ticket went. So yeah, I think by and large I enjoyed Antoine and Antoinette. But I'll be interested to see where the discussion on this film goes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Abram, if you want to, you seem like you want to speak up, so go right ahead.
I mean, as I said to Tanner when we watched the film last night, I don't like plots of happenstance. They aggravate me personally. And so on a very subjective level, I take issue with how things happen in Antoine and Antoinette largely just for the sake of what feels like artificial drama.
Sure.
As I said to Tanner, and I know this is sort of CinemaSins territory, but if I had a winning lottery ticket, I would make sure I held on to it.
Ding.
Yeah, ding. And so leaving the wallet on the table and the laundry bags on top of the wallet, and the wallet goes missing, and there's 2 tickets in the book. It's just hard for me to buy into a plot like that, and I think it's doubly hard when there's really, I don't think, super substantial character work here.
Yeah.
I would say of the pairing, I find Antoinette maybe more compelling because Antoinette is in this position where maybe the only sense of like organic tension comes from with the
Grocer.
The pervert grocer.
The grocer, the grocer, as we could call
grocer.
him,
The grocer.
as he sort of just assaults
gross.
women.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
But isn't that the word, though? Grocer?
Grocer, but I'm saying grocer.
Yes.
No, I know, but isn't the word grocer?
Grocer, yeah.
I think you can pronounce it either way.
Point is, with a plot like this and not much to chew on otherwise, especially when the plot ends up boiling down to, oh, we found the ticket.
Yep.
Not really any sort of deeper revelation. I just sort of find this film hard to care about.
Yeah.
I think it looks nice. I think it's mildly entertaining, particularly into the third act, but it just kind of leaves my mind. I feel like it's already on its way
already
out,
fleeting.
maybe.
What would you think?
I actually kind of like this film a bit.
Sure.
I think that it was, fun, lighthearted, and while it's not trying to be like too deep with its characters, I actually was chewing on quite a bunch there. They had some. I thought that there was.
Spit it out into our mouths like a little bird.
You didn't. None of you,
We're
and
hungry.
Tucker, you didn't even mention this in your plot synopsis, but there is a large part of the film in which the Antoinette or Antoine is worried and maybe rightly so, maybe not, about his wife being faithful to him, and sees
Sure.
lots of evidence that eventually intertwines with our plot. We kind of have a B and then an A plot in this film. And I think that there's a bit more going on in the film than you guys actually are giving it credit for. I also
Okay,
believe that
fair.
the cinematography and the editing are actually quite good in this film. It is
Yeah.
super snappy. We are not wasting any time on showing stuff that the film wants to show. It's deliberately, I think, kind of a little slow at the beginning. It's just like getting you into this like very everyday life type of setting. We're very it's unconcerned with, like, oh, there's nothing big going on. They're just trying to buy their groceries and then interact with the people that are around them. And so I actually am really endeared to that. I kind of like slice of life stuff. So
Mhm.
I was like, oh, cool. This is a very interesting society, the communal like nature of that apartment complex. And before the lottery ticket is kind of like brought up and introduced into the story, there's, I think, a very interesting small dynamic that's entertaining and kind of, tension pulling a little bit. It's the psychological love of this film. Is Antoinette gonna like go and be with all these other men that are trying to come after her, or is she faithful to her husband? And do they love each other? And I think because this film is like super lighthearted, it's super trying to be kind of escapist. It wants to just, at the end, yes, of course she is. Which kind of comes into, I guess, how the lottery ticket fares, but those two stories collide at the end in a pretty satisfying way for me. And I was like really enjoying when they're, like, oh my God, where's that ticket? Where's the ticket? So
Yeah.
I thought it was pretty fun.
Yeah, I mean, this film is set and produced in immediate post-war France, post-war Paris, and it's sort of like contingent on these feelings of like the how fortune and misfortune can sort of ebb and flow in everyone's lives, which is a bit of an understatement coming out of World War II for many of
Hmm.
the French people. But I think it is supposed to be that like, yeah, we're settling into these people, for the French audiences. These people are probably just like your neighbors. There's a creepy old dude. There's a young guy who wants to be a boxer. These archetypes are not very deep, but I think they are compelling in a sort of comedy of errors kind of way, I guess.
Hmm.
Yeah, this film
Um,
is very much a comedy of errors
uh-huh.
in the ways
And
that
not,
just things go wrong and like it's
yeah,
not exactly anybody's fault, but also it's like a little careless.
yeah. And it does have the notes of what Tucker you were talking about with the two previous films, where it is about for lack of a better word, a MacGuffin being passed around
Hmm.
between various characters, some of which we know, some of which we meet for the first time. I'm reminded of like the groom who picks up the wallet.
Hmm.
So yeah, so I can totally understand where your enjoyment of this film comes from, Timo, and I'd like to hear from you, especially as we get into maybe some deeper things about the film that maybe we didn't necessarily feel or pick up on. But yeah, I'm excited to dig into it. So where
Okay.
should we start, gentlemen?
I think with our two main characters.
Okay,
What do you guys
yeah.
feel about Antoine and Antoinette?
Well, I'm actually curious to hear what resonated with you so much, Timo, with Antoine in terms of him and the stress he has about infidelity. Because you're right, that is really the B plot of the movie. But I felt that it was a difficult B plot for me to get particularly invested in from Antoine's side because I never felt like his anxiety
Hmm.
about it was ever particularly justified or challenged in any way. He just kind of created scenarios where he was worried. Of course, the
Grocer.
grocer showing up, he is definitely a challenge. That like he is literally hitting on her and sexually assaulting her and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Though that tension, that's like the only one I really felt was like evidence to him that she might be cheating on him in some sort of way. But otherwise, it's kind of just he's like worrying about this potential infidelity that
Hmm.
is because we are as viewers are equally our time is equally split between Antoine and Antoinette. Whenever we see Antoinette, she is never even possibly thinking about cheating on
Yeah.
her husband. There's these men that come and flirt on her, come flirt with her, like the boy that lives next door that wants to be a boxer. He's like lightly flirting with her, but she,
Mhm.
passes him on, pushes against the grocer as much as he can, I felt like that subplot mostly to me kept boiling down to Antoine thinking back to like the day on the boat and being like, oh, she kind of turned her head away. That's why she might be cheating on me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't really know that's enough for me to really feel
Sure.
like, oh, this guy's anxiety about this is a core element of this film's identity, enough so to warrant the amount of time and the stress that it puts on him. Because I think that their relationship is well defined. I think that they have great chemistry together. I think their performances are both great. But I found the infidelity subplot to be only like truly interesting and well written when the grocer was involved,
Sure.
because he is a character that shows up multiple times as opposed to the other elements of it, which are just kind of like passing by and they just like are blips and they're gone.
What's
Mm-hmm.
interesting to me about their dynamic and how these characters are introduced is, unless I'm grossly misremembering the beginning of this film, we start with them at their respective jobs.
Yes.
And this
Yeah.
is where, Tucker, I was getting notes, because we don't know that these characters are married until they meet up and then they talk to each other and you're like, oh, they're married. Okay, gotcha. Because the notes I was getting from Antoinette's character, first of all, I was anticipating this to be like a meet cute sort of rom-com
Sure, yeah.
situation where like, oh, Antoine and Antoinette, they meet, they fall in love, they get the lottery tickets, yada yada yada.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, oh, okay, Antoinette, she is, she's very independent. She has no time for these suitors who she is seemingly beset by all the time in every facet of her life. But then I'm like, oh, okay, she's married. That reframes my reading of her character slightly. I guess she is still very independent and has a much more positive mindset about losing the lottery ticket than Antoine does.
Mm-hmm.
He seems to be like immediately spiraling and like maybe on the verge of suicide at points as he's like walking through the park and just sort of dead-eyed at like, I could have had it all. I could have had that motorcycle. And as for Antoine, I don't know if I immediately got a read on his character in any specific way. I mean, he seems very assured in the way, when he's introduced and he's putting his hand right next to those blades in the printing
Oh my God.
factory.
Yeah, good
the
tension
printing
there.
press. Yeah.
Frankly, I expected something to go very wrong.
Sure.
I thought that was going to be what kicked off
No, yeah.
whatever plot it was, because I did not read the plot summary.
Yeah, it's a one sentence plot summary. It's
yeah.
very similar to yours.
Yes.
On the letterboxd page here. But yeah,
But also, it's not even true. It says she's working in a big store. He's a typographer. That's not true. He's not a typographer.
yeah, it's true. He just
he,
like works
like-
in a printing
He like
factory.
cuts
He cuts books.
book pages off the end of them.
But yeah, I mean,
Okay.
I feel like these
Well, here-
characters were sort of primed for a rom-com meet cute.
Yeah.
And the fact that they are already, well established and knew each other and married, was nice, and their relationship was good. But like these actors have enough chemistry together where maybe we could have preoccupied the first 45 minutes of this with a sort of more tropey rom-com thing. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. So where I take this is actually in the exact moment that these two plots that we're talking about combined, and they justify each other almost, because it's at kind of the height of Antoine's worry about the infidelity of his wife, and kind of he's just ends up getting down on her, that has him pulling the ticket out and actually looking at it. He's like, you're like, well, how can you even do? Like, he questions if she's good at her job, and they kind of have a fight. And to me, that is the conclusion, or at least like the build, the resulting build of basically, yeah, Antoine's misguided anxiety of his like, he isn't right about thinking in that way, and
Yeah.
that he doesn't see his wife probably for how she sees him, and he's like, no, I'd never be with anyone else. But she, I guess, is a bit more realistic about it probably.
Mhm.
But like, hey, I'm with you. And so I guess I just like that sentiment of the plot.
Sure.
I like the way that it's just trying to be like, people are good and they will be good to each other. And when we
Unless
end
you're
up
a grocer.
when we
he's
end
the
up
guy that
in
we
the
have to
moment
punish,
where
and we all have to root
the
against.
ticket gets handed over, it kind of, I guess this plot, I define it as like and because of this plot, it happens like each thing, one thing happens, and because of that, then the next thing happens, and because of that, a character does this, which is to me a good way to structure a film, even if it does I think, Abram, you are right that it has a big feeling of happenstance, but the way that everything is just kind of like that, not like one small element or one key piece. And I think the specific nature of this plot allows for there to be a bit more happenstance. I don't know if it's like, it's very convenient for the plot to have the wallet be with the guy, the groom,
The groom.
in the
Yes.
like literal room, like right next to where
Yeah,
Antoine's
where
crying.
they're
But
separated by a singular wall at the same bar. And sorry, go ahead, Abram. You're repositioning yourself to talk.
I think
He's doing the gamer lean.
I was doing the game really to talk about Antoine.
The
and Antoinette.
40s French cinema lean.
Uh-huh.
I think it is this feeling of happenstance in the narrative that makes it hard for me to really buy into the infidelity plot as well. Just in that, through my eyes, through the lens of a modern viewer, I view the character dynamic really between our three main players of Antoine, Antoinette, and the grocer as there being an intrinsically and necessarily antagonistic relationship, obviously between our couple and the grocer. But because of the way that the narrative plays out, because Antoine really only ever encounters the other two together just by a mistake, coming into the apartment, the flowers arrive back from the
Yes.
neighbor just as he's in the home. I think that it ends up feeling inorganic to where, as a viewer, I say, well, the whole skepticism on Antoine's behalf of what we see explicitly in the narrative is basically preordained by the script to unfold in a way to paint Antoinette in a explicitly bad light, when we don't, as viewers, I don't think, have any clear indication that she is ever wavering in her
No, absolutely not.
her
Yeah,
feeling
of
towards her
course not.
husband.
Yeah.
We even see her go into the grocery store towards the end of the narrative and then reject the job, even in the moment of weakness, when we know from the narrative that this job would bring at least some of the money they need
Yeah.
to move out of this sort of like commune space they're living in.
Mhm.
So I think I find myself more frustrated when, to me, the payoff of the infidelity arc is less that, and it's more the payoff of getting this gross guy
Yeah.
out of the lives of Antoine and Antoinette by literally beating the doors off of him in the apartment. So I guess for me to buy more into the sort of instability that is presupposed into the relationship, I might have wanted to see more from
Yeah.
Antoinette's side that suggests that, because as it stands, I feel like all of that hangs on Antoine
Yes.
entering into plot level scenarios
Mm-hmm.
that are written to put Antoinette in the light that I don't think actually reflects her. And we see so many scenes of her by herself, far
Yeah.
more than
Yeah,
Antoine.
definitely.
And I think there would have been space to illustrate, okay, maybe she is wavering a little bit, or it would have been nice to see more scenes from Antoine where we establish further that he is a jealous person. Because if you
Sure.
can believe it, relationships that are totally stable encounter jealousy, right?
Uh-huh.
But I feel like the way that this narrative operates,
You
it
and me.
all comes right, of course, because of Tanner.
Yeah.
It all comes back to, I think, a plot level contrivance.
Yeah. Well, I think what's interesting is talking about the happenstance nature of so many of the elements of this film. I feel like that mostly ends up landing on the infidelity moments where he walks in and, oh, perfect timing, the flowers are back. Oh, perfect timing. He's just back on the door when he's in the room like 5 minutes earlier or whatever. I feel like actually though, I would push back a little bit on so much of the film's moments feeling happenstance, because I actually feel like there is an organic nature to many of the things that end up becoming setups for later.
Yeah, of course.
Like the fact that she trades books with her friends at her job.
Yep.
That's a very like natural plot level thing. I'm not exactly sure what it is other than like, okay, it creates this plot level thing, but it feels like in her nature and her friend's nature to be trading books back and forth. We see that quite frequently. And so when the book is on the newsstand at the beginning, the guy slips his ticket into it, he's like, whatever. And it's like, oh, it's just a simple, like,
Uh-huh.
obviously it's called to, like, we get a close up on the ticket.
She puts the ticket in there and they close. He's like, this will be
Yeah.
important later.
But that and the ticket stand where Juliet works, we get established that that's a very busy, pushy place. And so when the old lady puts her laundry bag down on top of the thing, I'm like, okay, you know what? That's a reasonable thing.
yeah.
It's been established. So even though, and I would say the one that definitely is not does not feel organic is the groom having the
Yes,
thing.
okay.
Like that takes 6 layers to get to.
Uh-huh.
But I do feel like enough of these moments feel well established that I end up feeling like, oh, it feels very forced that he walked in at just the right moment for this to happen. Even though the other ones are just the right moment, I think because they're more environmental and more established by just character traits,
Yeah.
they feel like, yeah, that's
And-
pretty natural.
And they feel closer to the happenings of like a slapstick comedy sort
Oh,
of
sure.
thing.
Yeah, and also another one, the guy backing over the bike.
Exactly.
It's like, oh, it's just a busy street. His
Yeah.
bike was there. He was a little bit lazy. Like that to
And
me
it's-
was like the perfect encapsulation of, oh, you know what? I didn't realize it was going to turn into a bigger thing, but it felt like just like a normal moment of small tension.
I feel like there's less of a like requirement for A plus B equals C with stuff like that than there is with with character writing. I feel we want our characters to be more personable, not necessarily act rational, but act in ways that we're not like, well, who would act like that?
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense, especially for a film that is relatively grounded and is maybe trying to say things about love persevering past fortune, misfortune, money, and stuff like that. I feel like some of that gets muddied as well. I think that's maybe what the role of the groom is as well. He's like, but like he's not necessarily. He was never. I was never convinced that he was going to like take the wallet for his own like sort of purposes. But he gets it and puts it in his pocket, and he's like, "Oh, I forgot that I had that." So it's a very strange and odd moment for me.
Mm.
I will just say this because this is a movie.
Correct.
And the movie was written by somebody to be watched, if you can believe it.
Oh,
Hang on,
shit.
I can find out.
Yeah,
Hang
you
on.
verified that.
Yeah.
Oh, hang on.
I've got
Oh.
guys research.
Oh, yeah,
What
guys
is
do-
going on with your computer?
No.
So
It's-
many
It's
spam pop-ups? What are those?
written by Jacques Becker, Maurice Grief, and Francois Giraud.
And
Girard.
The reason I said it is because I've seen enough movies to understand that the writer has to move the plot forward and
Yes.
advance the plot. So I'm not trying to sit here and be like, oh, it doesn't feel real because
Uh-huh.
obviously it's not. But I think the reason I take issue with this is,
Uh-huh.
and I want to bring up the book example. The book is quite interesting to me because yes, on a plot level, it functions as this like you call it like the coconut game earlier.
Yeah,
like the
shell game,
coconut
yeah,
game of switching the tickets, right? I think that's clever because it's contextualized within a really interesting dimension of this narrative, which is the fact that women aren't allowed to read.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's this sort of like back channeling exchange of books that I think is really quite interesting. That is also sort of like an open secret in the society.
Mhm.
And so I find that to be very compelling. And
Yeah.
out of that comes this more authentic feeling plot element.
Mhm.
I think the reason that I take issue with how these moments of surprise of Antoine finding Antoinette unfold is because typically I would expect if we're going to have her caught in a moment that makes her look bad,
Mm-hmm.
we would want that to have been succeeded by moments in which she was trying to explain that's not who she is,
Mm-hmm.
right? I don't really feel there's a lot of moments of her character being sort of examined in a way that makes her being caught in a situation feel more earned.
Mm-hmm.
Like if we knew she cheated and then she was trying so hard to obviously show that she's trying to be better, then oh fuck, awful moment, Antoine. It's not what it looks like.
Uh-huh.
It's not necessarily that, I don't feel.
Yeah.
I don't think that there's that context. The same way
Sure.
there's, I think, context through the books being passed around.
Yeah.
Antoine does have a line though that he indicates that none of this is new. That it's just kind of been
Sure.
going. It like he says something along the lines of like, yeah, well, women or like guys are always trying to flirt with you. Like this is just
Yeah,
what
yeah.
you know.
He does
How do you
that
how does
close
that
to the
supposed how's that
beginning, yeah.
supposed to make me feel like when they're always trying to get with
Sure.
you? So that's the only context that's given, and for me that was enough. I was rocking with that, and like just kind of I think that a lot of those moments play as comedic. I think the film is always trying to have like it's tension, but it's also very comedic tension. Like with the book, I'm sitting there, he puts the ticket in the book. I'm like, no, don't do that. And because I'm like you guys are like, who would not keep their eyes on the ticket? But for the purposes of the film, there's great tension because I'm like, don't, and I know because it's set up that the neighbor's gonna come get the book in a little while. I'm like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. And I actually kind of love when our characters do things that seem stupid, but then Antoine is like, wait, let me see the book. And that was a good, I think, like I was, we didn't get a chance to see if he grabbed the right ticket, because I didn't remember that there was another one in the book during, like, actually at all from the first part onward. But those moments, I think, are being like tense, but they're also funny. And I think that the dialogue is also indicates that this film is not trying to be serious. Like, it's
Of course,
pretty
yeah, yeah,
funny
yeah.
in a kind of like not like laugh out loud way. I was always like, there's moments would happen. I think the metro teller is a good example of like lots of like kind of funny moments that aren't like I'd see him and go like, oh yeah, that's funny, instead of
Just a little exhale through your nose
But there's
moments.
good wit to the film.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's got that. And so that's kind of, I maybe excuse a little bit of kind of bumbling in the for the point of having a funny moment. And when you're pulling those up again and again, it's, it works enough. But I do hear what you're saying about how the kind of, I don't know, lack of goings on between, I guess, Antoinette not actually showing her trying to be good. But I think she also just is like, trust me, bro.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and here's what I'll say. I'm not here to like condemn bumbling characters. I love a good bumbling character. Don't get me wrong. But I think what we're
Name 15.
okay. All right, Mr. Bean.
Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah, Dumb and Dumber. That's good.
Mark
What was I going to say? Sorry. I'm not here to condemn.
Pro 1, Mark Pro 2, Mark Pro 3,
Okay.
Mark Pro 4.
Okay. I'm not here to condemn any bumbling characters, okay? But I think what we're sort of dancing around here and sort of like taking jabs at is the more ham-fisted moments of writing, when not all the moments in the film do feel ham-fisted.
Exactly,
So there is a bit of a inconsistency in the writing there, especially when the dialogue can feel quite witty, and moment to moment it can feel quite witty. There is some moments that are just like, oh, okay, that's not quite as much of a like clever or well-established way of moving the plot forward as you've previously had in this film, and so that's why those moments stand out, and they can feel a bit uneven.
Yeah, imbalanced, I would say.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and I think that's also present in maybe my biggest criticism of the film, which is the pacing. Because I did end up I said at the beginning I did not read the plot synopsis.
Yes.
Then about 20 minutes in the movie, I'm like, what the fuck is this movie about? And so then I looked it up, and it's like, oh, they have
A lottery ticket.
And I'm like, no, they don't.
When they have that?
I was 35 minutes in the movie at that point. I'm like, they don't have a lottery ticket. What are you talking about? And so but then I was paying attention, and it's literally not until like 42 minutes into the film that the lottery ticket even gets introduced. And I think that to me is my biggest issue with it on like a content and engagement level. I do feel like the interesting element of this plot that creates tension, that creates unique scenarios, that makes scenarios flow from one to another, is once the tick is introduced.
Yes.
Up to that point, you're right, Timo, it's just a slice of life, young French couple going to their jobs, mild infidelity thing. Okay.
Typical French stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a French movie.
Typical, never mind.
Yep.
But I think the fact that it takes so long to even introduce the idea of the ticket outside of the guy put the ticket in the book earlier is bad for me. I think that if it had been introduced earlier that Antoinette consistently goes and gets these tickets, or maybe it's a special occasion to her, and so she's celebrating something, so she goes and gets a ticket earlier, and then we have that seed better planted in our mind, or maybe there's a little bit more conversation from some side characters about, the lottery ticket is this much coming up, and everyone's talking about it, getting excited. I feel like there's not enough seeds planted that the story is going to take a hard right turn into lottery ticket exactly halfway through the film for me to feel like this beginning part is worth establishing the characters. Because as we talked about, they're solid characters. They have a solid relationship.
Yeah.
But there's not a ton of thematic depth here. There's not a ton of personality traits here. It is a relatively simple plot of these characters at the beginning. And so I don't think it necessarily earns having half the screenplay be just those establishing moments, especially with the amount of time we spend with like side characters and like
Mhm.
introducing the boxing guy, introducing their neighbor that works in the metro, and
Mhm.
the grocer, of course, gets fair time. But all this stuff, I'm like, well, why do we really need to establish this? Like, why did you need to spend 5 minutes of the scene of him going onto the roof and then him going across the roof into the thing, and then is okay, so that's an infidelity thing, but like that's like three other ideas that I don't feel like
Oh yeah,
really,
his whole like radio deal.
yeah, it's like
Yeah.
that doesn't really resolve in any way
Yeah.
at the end. And again, I feel like it's time that could have been spent better working towards where this film is at its most unique and where the writing feels like it's headed, which is that this lottery ticket is an interesting thing that impacts people's lives in different ways. And then even in the lottery ticket section, and this is again part of my issue with the pacing, because basically no one knows they have it, it doesn't feel like there's much stake. There's the internal stakes, but
Yes.
externally, okay. I mean, like it just is revealed to a couple characters throughout that, like, oh, they have it. Oh, okay. Oh, all right. And so I just feel like things don't tie together as tightly as I would want them to be. I would want there to be this idea of the boxer guy has a lottery ticket as well,
Mhm.
and so then when he finds out they have it, maybe he's trying to switch it,
Mhm.
or the grocer has been thinking about a lottery ticket in some way. Like tie these elements together to the lottery ticket, so you can introduce that a little bit before, instead of the first half of the movie is just a slice of life drama, and then all lottery ticket all the time for that second half.
Yeah. Sorry, Abram, did you have something? Timo, did you have something to say? I don't know.
I think part of my issue with the pacing when you look at the film as a whole is I love the fight at the end.
Yes.
I think the
Mhm.
fight is
It's
really
fun.
good. I think it's choreographed well. I think Timo, to your point about editing, I think it's edited quite well.
Mhm.
Um, and I really like that the entire building comes together.
Yes.
I think that that's super fun, and I like that it becomes this sort of small class conflict, essentially. Even as the grocer is being kicked down the stairs, um, somebody he says something like you'll pay for this,
Mhm.
and then the boxer says I'm broke. Or
Can't.
something.
Yeah.
I can't. I think that that's really effective, and I think that that does try to get a little bit closer to the heart of what the film is trying to say.
Yeah.
But I think I would have liked to have seen more of in that first half a sense of community between the people in the building
Mhm.
to make me even more excited when they all come together to
Right.
watch Antoine beat the doors off of this
Mhm.
guy. And I think we do get some of that, to be fair.
Yeah.
Mhm.
The boxer coming through the window and the scene you cited, I at least think that that builds a little bit of a relationship there. And we know that Antoinette has friends in the building,
Yeah.
and we get to little bits and pieces. But I think that uh, I I didn't fully grasp, I don't think, based on what the film was telling me,
Mhm.
how poor off they are.
Yeah. I mean, they're not exactly like we get the idea that they are like maybe on the verge of poverty, but they're not like hard up for cash in a lot of
Mhm.
regards, or at least in many scenes in the film. Because they have they have like a 2-room apartment in 1940s France. They have like they're getting like new radio parts for
Yeah.
him, stuff like that. Like they don't seem like
Buying alcohol,
yeah.
buying extra food, like
they're
Well, in France,
I think
in France, the alcohol is practically free. So
and this is not me being like, well, they say they're in poverty, but really, they have all these extra expenditures. I'm not doing that kind of thing. But like, if you're telegraphing things about these characters, about them being, poor and scrounging for cash in that regard, I think there could be a little bit more more work done. Go a little bit more into an extreme, I'd say.
I don't even because I agree with you to an extent. I mean, they do have plenty of lines of dialogue where I think the accusatory relationship between Antoine and Antoinette is pretty well developed. Where
Mhm.
Antoine's like kind of needling her about what she's buying and that she's
Mhm.
going to run out of money and she can't use her money well. I think that works, and I think we do get some context for
Yeah.
that. And who wouldn't want 800,000
Of
francs,
course.
right? But I think
that was
probably
probably what 60 cents today.
Yeah, something like that.
but I think that the context of the apartment building, which I think is such a rich location, would have, I think, better illustrated their kind of larger social position,
Mhm.
and I think would have allowed for us to spend more time with these other characters that I do think I did want a little bit more of. I mean, when the fight's going down, I go, okay, man, time to bring in the boxer, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Because I
Like
had a
tag
connection
tag
to
team.
him. For sure, but I think I wanted a few more of those connections,
Yes.
maybe, to make that first half perhaps richer with more recurrent characters, but then also at the end be a little bit more satisfying. And in the fight, which I really enjoy, kind of knowing, okay, I know all these people, I know why they're here, I know that it's cool. Because
Perhaps.
right now,
I'm just, this is not what's in the movie, but I'm now going to write my own fan fiction for this film. Wherein-
first ever.
Wherein
How big is the Antoine and Antoinette section on insert fanfiction site here? Tumblr, I guess. Wattpad. That's what I was
Wattpad.
looking for. Yeah.
I think, man, if you were to take the boxer and set him up as the like first half of the film's antagonist, I think you could maybe solve a lot of the issues of what you guys are talking about, in which we get a bit more development on Antoine and Antoinette's kind of their fracas about if she's like
What word did you just use?
fracas.
that's a word.
I believe you. I just never heard it before.
There's little fights about who she's seeing, and if she's seeing too many people. Have Antoine have to maybe confront the boxer, or have him they have to do something, which gives you more time to talk about the building. It gives you more time to like investigate who these people are, because I really like all the side characters, but I mean,
good.
I could always stand to get more of them. So perhaps you set that like antagonistic relationship up for the beginning, and then you just play out the second half like it's played out, and you kind of have this like two parts where he like first defeats the one guy and then he comes back, but because they're in the building, they have solidarity. Perhaps that
Sure. I see.
I mean,
Yeah.
that would be cool to see. It's not in the film.
I think that just again points to my point of this movie has very low external external stakes. The internal stakes between them being scared that they've lost the money is certainly there, and definitely portrayed through Antoine just like walking and moping around the park. Like, God damn. But between the other characters, because basically no one knows that this is happening, it's just like
they're very
they just
smart for
happen
keeping
to
it
be
quiet,
around.
actually.
Oh no, absolutely. But you can imagine there being some scenario where someone accidentally finds out and then hides that they know it, that they're like, trying to get it, or trying to make sure that he loses it or something. But there's none of that, and so it does feel a little bit disconnected from the stakes of the movie, which again, the A plot is still that there's a lottery ticket.
Yeah.
But that basically has no bearing on most of the side characters because they have no idea.
Yeah. Sorry, Jacques Becker, you ain't no Marx Brothers, you ain't no Billy Wilder, you ain't no none of these things. You gotta up your game a little bit in your
He's probably
slapstick.
dead.
What?
Maybe.
What?
Yeah.
Maybe.
You gotta up your game a little bit in the slapstick comedy
Get everything all
game.
woven together a little bit. Connect everything with more strings.
What I was gonna say is on the note of the fight, which we've talked about a couple times. I just like seeing that. I like seeing an old pervert get beat up. That's pretty good. It's pretty fun. He tries to fight dirty. He's subsequently punished for that and kicked down a flight of stairs and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
It's really fun to see.
Yeah, really
just to
feel
see
good
him get
ending.
walloped. Yeah,
I think that like the feel goodedness of this film is something
Yeah.
that like that's kind of why it has low external stakes, and that's kind of why they
Sure,
don't actually suffer that much like poverty. I think that's definitely trying to be escapist fare, where you're getting to see everyday life in 1947 right after the freaking World War II, but it's not as bad. It's like, their life is definitely better than your
Yeah.
life, even before they win the lottery.
Well, yeah, I think it's interesting to see this sort of blending of the post-war realism, because this movie is definitely about just going about your life and being an average person and needing groceries and needing to mend your clothes and trading things with your friends. There is sort of that post-war realist edge that you'd see in something like Italian neorealism. And it was the moment when his bike got run over, I'm like, this is bicycle thieves.
Bicycle thieves,
Something's going
yeah.
on here.
Oh goddamn! It's bicycle
But
thieves.
I think it's an interesting blend between the realistic post-war edge and wanting to still also be just a rom-com kind of.
Yeah.
But there's also, and I wanted to talk about the filmmaking at least a little bit here, because in plot it is realistic in that way, at least partially. But it does, take these sort of fantastical flourishes at
Yeah, no,
moments.
sure.
Where there's at least two instances where Antoine walks directly into the camera,
Yeah.
and that's used as a scene transition. I was
that's
like,
fun.
that's pretty fun. That's pretty cool.
He also has like a drunken flashback.
Yeah,
to
when he
the
gets
process.
when he gets knocked out and he goes.
Yeah, it's like,
As everyone knows, when you get a concussion, your memory gets better. Actually, when you get knocked out, you just let him sleep, just let him out, and then they're gonna remember something important about previously that day. But no, I mean that's the kind of flourishes that
Well,
like
he was being waved. There was a towel being waved. at
he's
him,
like,
so
this
it
works
made it-
every time, bro.
yeah, that's
wasn't
what it
that
is.
how-
That's what it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, there are those flourishes in the filmmaking that sort of they pique your interest a little bit as a viewer, or at least they
And
did
I
for
think
me. It was
that, like,
that's
moment
neat.
to
That's cool,
moment-
Jacques Becker.
Moment to moment, the editing is like super boom, 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 like waste no time. We're gonna move from line to next line, and like there aren't big shots of people walking. I think that while you guys have talked about the pacing throughout the whole film, I think the scene to scene, like moment to moment within scenes, like this film is moving along. It is not like
Absolutely.
letting
Yeah.
you
It was,
sit
what,
idly.
88 minutes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
something
well,
like
it doesn't
that.
have time to like dawdle. So, even when we take, I guess, the slowest moments of the film when Antoine's depressed walking around the park, it's actually still cutting a lot, and then
Yeah.
we move quickly into other moments, and we ellipse a pretty good amount of time. It cuts out lots of real life time to just keep us moving with what's important to, or what it decides is important to the plot. I like them going to see the football match. That's pretty cool. I was like, oh,
Oh, yeah, I
1940s
forgot about
soccer.
that.
Like,
That was
oh,
yeah. Well, I wonder what. Honestly, goodness question. What was the point of that scene?
Hey, French audience, you like soccer, don't you?
Oh, sure.
Like
Okay,
football?
yeah, I think it was
These guys
kind
gonna
of
see
it was
football
kind of a
too.
passage of time thing. Like,
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
because you're supposed to kind of know that film starts on Friday and that happens on Sunday on their day off, and then I think come
Mhm.
Monday or Tuesday, I think I don't know.
Yeah.
The weekend, it happened. You have the weekend, don't you, workers?
The ball represented financial freedom.
Yes, and the goal in the card that the referee holds up, that's the lottery ticket, and so it's in the way of, or no, you want
So
the
you want to hurt people
Yes.
to get a red card because the red card is the lottery ticket to freedom.
we nailed it.
That's what
And then
Tanner said.
he hurts someone at the end of the film, and then he finds a lottery ticket.
Perfect.
There you go.
Just like soccer.
Here's
like-
something that
Or football
Violence
for
will
our
get you money.
for our European viewers. Football.
football. I thought this film had some pretty excellent moments of diegetic music, especially in the lottery office when there's the guy tuning the piano.
Oh yeah,
That actually added a lot to that scene, in which it's like the
Oh, yeah,
same note
definitely.
going bing 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 bing, and then he would like play this chord, and it wasn't like a normal. It was a chord that fit for the moment. It was clearly chosen to be the score of the moment, but then he keeps on tuning in, and the way that it like escalates the tension, it literally is ratcheting up the pitch, and that really, to me, adds the tension, makes it just a lot more tense when you have this very driving, annoying piano in the background that's getting higher pitched moment to moment. That was really cool. And then after he's in the bar where there's the wedding going on, and he's like sitting there unbelievably depressed, drinking and hearing the bride sing, and then also confronting Antoinette. She finds him finally. He's been like avoiding her. He doesn't want to admit to her. That's another moment that I think is using diegetic music to express character emotions pretty well and pretty seamlessly. I don't know if I really like the score otherwise, but those moments stuck out to me. Like,
Yeah.
the grocer walks into a scene and there's this like hilariously comical, like evil, like boom, 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 boom. Like, I'm like, okay, yeah, heard that before.
I don't have any palm details because they would just be the same ones from last time.
That's
Yeah.
fair enough.
I do have palm de trivia though.
Palm
just
de
just a little
trivia.
fun thing I found out about this
Holy
film.
shit.
Which is it's just a cute little thing. It's like in 1947 they had a screening of this film at some public square in Paris
Lottery ticket sales quadrupled.
No, but something else related explicitly to the film. People with the name Antoine or Antoinette were given free tickets.
Oh,
free
that's
admission
kinda
to
sick.
free admission to the film.
Probably relatively common.
Yeah,
in that time
exactly.
frame.
But yes.
Is that the
Anything
only
else?
detail? The trivia?
What?
Is that the only trivia?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a good thing the movie wasn't called like Jean-Luc and Marie.
Yeah. That's a good thing. That's a good.
They wouldn't make any money.
They have to give out half the theater.
All right.
Let's give this a
Ready to
score.
score.
Let's
I'm
score.
ready to score.
Like soccer, Our football, the radio means the.
What the fuck are you talking about?
I'm just tying things together.
I've got a number ready.
Yeah,
I got number 2.
I don't.
Oh, okay.
There's someone you forgot to ask.
3, 2, 1. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
We have a number. It is 6.1. So the point breakdown is as follows. Tucker gave it a 5.2, followed by Abrams 5.7. Tanner gave it a 6.2, and I gave it a 7.2. So actually kind of a wide spread there, but maybe you could have seen that one coming.
A 2-point spread.
2.2 spread.
Holy
Nope.
shit.
Just 2 points.
Tucker gave it the lowest score. Nice try. Better luck next time.
So
Anyway.
that is going to slot this film above a similar film that we mentioned just a bit, Red Meadows, and below Taste of Cherry at the 7th place on our list.
Can I just take a quick temperature check of the room?
Mm-hmm.
Did you prefer Antoine Antoinette or the lottery ticket bit from Ziegfeld's Folly?
Ooh, the entire film or the
Yeah.
The entire film. I'll say Antoine and Antoinette, much funnier.
Yeah.
Wait,
Yeah.
which one was the lottery ticket one?
That was the
The
one with
Borscht
Fanny
Belt.
Bryce.
Oh! That was pretty funny.
It's pretty good, but
That's a
also
good
Fanny
bit.
Bryce is at the beginning of that film dressed up as a Native American.
No, she's not. A doll of her is.
Yes, that's right. But she's doing the voice. She's making the voice
That's
for
a
it.
good point.
She's
Antoine Antoinette.
I'm going Antoine and Antoinette too.
Just to be different, I'm saying. Like for the folly.
Hey,
Phenomenal.
it's your funeral, pal. Anyway, should we figure out what we're gonna watch next? The last one before the 2024, whatever you want to say, 2023, 2024 Oscar nominees.
Gonna have to stop you right there. We were wrong. The next episode is, in fact, going to be the very first of 2024's Best Picture nominees. I hope you stay tuned for that. It's going to be a really exciting couple of weeks as we tackle every single one of them. We don't know which one we're going to do first, but I recommend keeping it posted, keeping it tuned right here on Backlot Banter, where you'll find out. Also, we will be doing a live streamed reaction to the nominees being announced by the Academy on the morning of January 23rd, which is coming right up. So keep it tuned here to Backlot Banter. We've got lots more fun quest stuff coming for you. And, well, until then, stay warm, keep cool. Peace.